All right, we are live. My name is Robbie. I go by the pronouns he, him, and we are here to play session 2 of Paul Zega's game, My Life with Master. And we spent last week developing the character of the Master, as well as developing the characters of the minions who will be serving the Master. And what we're going to do today is start off with just a little reminder and some further fleshing out of the Master and the minions, and then we will kind of get into the play of the game. We are here with other members of the Gauntlet online role-playing community. And we've already kind of talked about safety protocol with the X card that is always available, and lines and veils. So I'm going to say a little bit about the Master and what the Master is interested in. The Master's name is Count Louis Auguste. He is a wealthy aristocrat who rules over a area that I am going to call Malvonia. So he is the Count of Malvonia, which is in a rugged, forested area. We're going with the kind of default setting for this game, which is some type of 19th century kind of Eastern European setting. I'm imagining that Louis Auguste was an only child and probably had a difficult childhood growing up and a lonely childhood, because this is a pretty rugged area that Malvonia is in. And being an only child and being an aristocrat, there were not really a lot of other kids of his own social class. So he kind of grew up largely alone. I imagine that he had some type of demanding tutor who gave him his education, be a kind of cruel tutor who probably spent a lot of his time making his pupil feel inferior. And I would imagine that somebody growing up in that situation would try to find opportunities to make friends, perhaps make friends with people that are not probably in his same social class. And so I imagine that there would be some situations where Louis would perhaps skitter off to the village and have a few people down in the village, kids his age, who he would sometimes socialize with without his parents probably being fully in on the fact that he had kind of gone to socialize with other kids. At some point in growing up, clearly Louis Auguste developed a love and fascination with the theater. We defined last week that in terms of the type of master that he is, he has a brain aspect to him, meaning that he is an intellectual type of master, and that in terms of the type, he is what is called a breeder. And a breeder is mainly concerned with some type of active creation. And in the case of Louis Auguste, his desire to create is tied to the creation of new theatrical spectacles. Louis Auguste, growing up, tried to get into acting. He had, some slight musical talent, but partly because he was an aristocrat where being a musician or being an actor was not really appropriate, and partly because he just he had a little bit of talent in those areas, but not any kind of stunning talent. a kind of career as an actor or as a musician or somebody in the theater, that was just not going to work out for him until he became the Count. And I would imagine, you know, the way I kind of conceived of Louis Auguste coming to be the Count, let us imagine that his parents died when Louis was in his early 20s. They died, the official reports say they died of food poisoning. But people in the village would talk and would say that the deaths of Louis's parents was a little bit suspicious. And some people did not necessarily buy that it was actually food poisoning. Some people passed on rumors that there was something more intentional behind the deaths of Louis's parents. But in whatever the case may be, his parents died when he was in his early 20s. He became the Count of Malvonia. And he, in that position, had the resources to pursue some type of theatrical career. And I mean, not your typical theatrical career, because he basically ruled this region. He had the resources of the region at his disposal. And he had a large amphitheater built, and is now has it in his mind that with this amphitheater, with the considerable resources he has at his disposal, he is going to develop some type of revolutionary new theatrical form. And this new form of theater is going to combine dance. It is going to combine music with architecture, with acrobatics. It is just going to kind of synthesize all fields of art together and meld this into some brilliant, genius type of new theatrical spectacle that nobody has even dreamed of or imagined before. And that is what he's kind of aiming at right now. And try to see what else I want to say about Louis Auguste. I think that, you know, right now that, let me see if there are any questions that you have about our master or about Malvonia. I think we defined that it would be a fairly sizable town or village, maybe not a full-on city, but it has a decent size. I imagine in terms of resources, I'm thinking, okay, it's in the mountains and it's wooded, so you certainly would probably have some lumber activity there, but also we could imagine that maybe some of those mountains have some precious metals in there. And so, you know, that certainly helps the economy and gives Louis Auguste some added revenue that he can use as he desires. Any other questions about this particular master? Okay, if not, then why don't we learn a little bit about the minions? And I think for this, what I'll do is I'll just kind of move left to right across my screen. You can introduce yourself, the pronouns that you prefer, and say a little bit about your minion that you will be playing. And I'm going to have, once you do that, I am going to have a one or two follow-up questions for each of the minions. Okay. So Pearl, can we start with you?
Sure. I am Pearl. I use she, her pronouns. I like to introduce my characters in character, so I'm going to introduce Bupu. Me Bupu. Me and work with master long time. Not so many words for Bupu, unless someone else words, then big words. But Bupu, little words. Bupu no feel pain. Unless Bupu pain to someone else, then Bupu ow. Bupu would like to be on beautiful stage, but Bupu not beautiful. No one like Bupu. Except Roslyn in village. No see. So she doesn't know Bupu so ugly. I like Roslyn. Bupu like Roslyn. Roslyn give candy. Also Bupu love Yana. Yana, name of Bupu fiance, who gone now. But new Yana, also good. Bupu love.
And Bupu, when Louis Auguste calls upon you to do something, I mean, what does Bupu do for Louis Auguste?
Bupu small and ugly, so can go lots of places and no one look. So Bupu goes in village and looks around for master to see pretty people for master play. Sometimes Bupu snatch person, but no like people to do their own choice. But master not so happy with people have their own choice.
Okay. Let's go now to Stentor. Tell us a little bit about your minion.
All right, so I'm Stentor, they, them. I'm playing Handsome Hal, who uses he, him pronouns. And so Handsome Hal is breathtakingly beautiful as a result of some work that's been done on him by the Count. And so he works as kind of the PR person, the face of the organization. And so his beauty is just captivating to everyone, unless someone present publicly criticizes him. And then it's kind of an emperor's new clothes thing that suddenly everybody else like realizes that he's like, you know, too far and kind of creepy in his beautifulness. And as part of this image that he's got, he can't show sadness, anger, any other negative emotion in where other people can see him. And he's got connections in town, first to his twin brother, Plain Pete. So we were both rather ordinary-looking twins, Plain Pete and Homely Hal, but I chose to get enhanced by the Count, and Plain Pete did not. And I, would like to rebuild my connection with my brother, even though he's now kind of creeped out by me and what I've done. And then the other person I've got a connection with is Birgitte Huberg, who's a visiting journalist for the Dagens Nyheter newspaper in Sweden. And I'm hoping she will sweep me away to a foreign land because I've never actually left this town.
Okay. And just to clarify, because I was thinking about Handsome Hal today, in terms of the more than human and less than human qualities, Handsome Hal will be captivatingly beautiful unless someone public criticizes some aspect. And I think it would be specifically something about his appearance that would get criticized. So in other words, if Handsome Hal is criticized for something else, his appearance will still be captivatingly beautiful. It would have to do with whether that criticism kind of eventually touches on some aspect of his actual appearance.
Right.
And then on the less than human, I was thinking we would be really strict about the unless nobody is looking at Handsome Hal. Mm-hmm. So that like, for example, if Handsome Hal was in the other room and nobody was looking at him, he could talk about sadness or anger, and that would come across. But when somebody actually sees him, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very visual kind of character concept.
Right.
Yeah, so if nobody is looking at him, then it puts up that little bit of a shield that he can express negative emotions.
Okay. All right, and then Walter, tell us a little bit about your minion.
Yes, I am playing Ek. And Ek is a beastman. Ek is sort of a part bird-like creature, part human. Sort of somewhat small for a human, but but not particularly so. Has these large kind of like bat-like wings, and he can fly unless it's raining. Now, where did Ek come from, I think, is an interesting question. I'm open to the possibility that Count Louis Auguste had some hand in creating him, but I'm also thinking maybe he was just like born a monstrosity and was sort of at some point driven out of wherever he was from. And, I'm imagining that he was like one of those really annoying seagulls for a while that is kind of like always landing near humans trying to get some food, and was basically kind of like, shuffled off repeatedly until one day he like was landing, in Louis Auguste's vicinity, and Louis Auguste recognized an opportunity here and sort of brought him into the fold at that point. So what do you think of that for his origin, Robbie?
That sounds good, and I think we had some idea last week that Louis Auguste was that there was some type of scientific interest that Louis Auguste had as well, and so I could imagine that maybe Ek appeared and Louis Auguste did see an opportunity there, but also was kind of, I guess, curious about Ek, both for what Ek might be able to do for him, but also as a kind of little specimen for him to study, and like, okay, what scientifically is operating behind this kind of a monstrosity?
Yeah, I dig that. And as far as other uses, Ek can fly with quite a bit of power, and I think he can do the like Wizard of Oz flying monkey thing and abduct people and fly away with them when necessary. When on occasion, he has very sharp talons, good in a scrap. Now, his less than human is that he emits a horrific stench, unless he's drunk. He has, there's two people he's interested in, who maybe have noticed him from a distance, but there hasn't been any action about them yet, or maybe they haven't noticed him at all. One is Arvis Duval. Arvis is a breeder of carrier pigeons who lives in the town. And the other one is Orlan Dalmor, who is a baker and also happens to be an illegitimate son of Count Louis Auguste. And Orlan Dalmor often will leave sort of extra baked goods out in the back at the end of the day, and it is one of the places that Ekek goes to find some nibbles, get some of that leftover bread.
How old do you imagine Orlan is right now?
I mean, old enough to have a business, so, but maybe not terribly old. Perhaps I don't know, maybe 20 or something. Maybe he like inherited a business or was very enterprising or something of that sort.
Okay. And also remind me that does Louis Auguste know about the existence of Orlan?
I mean, I think he like has disowned Orlan. Like, I think he has claimed no responsibility for Orlan. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm guessing that there's like rumors, right? Like maybe okay. Orlan even looks a bit like Louis Auguste, but Louis Auguste has you know stated it from the get-go.
Okay. One last question I'm going to ask for each of you. Imagine that there is a photograph, a kind of daguerreotype photograph of your minion. Describe what we would see in that photograph. So the photograph would be, maybe it would have your minion in the photograph, but it would be somewhat emblematic of your character. It could be something that they enjoy doing, maybe something that they don't enjoy doing, but something that they end up having to do, or anything else that you would say, okay, yeah, if we were to see a kind of daguerreotype early photograph of this character, this is what we would see that would be kind of emblematic of that character. So with Bupu, what would a Bupu photograph feature?
I think you would, and actually really quickly, I'd like to clarify something, which I don't usually have to do after introducing myself in character, but I realized that because one of my things is speaking like a cave woman, I'm not sure that all of the information would have gotten across clearly for anybody who watches this and whatever else. So I'm going to give a quick out of character summary of a little bit of it. Okay. The way I was speaking was my attempt to speak like a cave woman, not like any stereotype of anything. So I want to make that clear because I realized it could, I don't know, I could accidentally invoke some stereotype that was horrible, and that's definitely not my intention. Please call me on it if I do it. I won't realize it, or I wouldn't do it in the first place. But her less than human is she can only speak in cave woman-like simple sentences unless she's quoting something or someone, in which case she can speak very eloquently at length. And she doesn't feel pain unless she's inflicting pain on someone else, and then she feels what they feel. Her connections are Rosalind, a blind old woman who gives her candy and sweets from time to time, and she feels a bond, not just because of the sweets, but because Rosalind can't see her and therefore doesn't make her feel aware of how sort of ugly and deformed she feels she is. And Yana, who's a carpenter in town who has the same name as my late fiance. And I noticed him because of the name and just kind of transferred the feelings. But then it turned to genuine affection a bit because he's nice to everyone, but Bupu doesn't know that, and so just thinks like he's nice to her, which is a rarity. So
yeah, but at the beginning of the game, Yana, I mean, I guess knows Bupu, but Bupu's not really anybody particularly special to Yana.
Yeah, no, he's nice to her because he's nice to everyone else, but like wouldn't give her another thought once she has left the carpentry shop or whatever.
Right.
So it's one of those cases of very mismatched interpretations of the same situation. Anyway, I just wanted to make that clear because I was like, I didn't practice Cave Woman speech before this game, and it's much harder than I expected it to be. Anyway, if you looked at a picture of Bupu, I think you would see she wears mostly sort of like a big cloak over rags, including like a little hood, and she's a really hunched over back. So she was short to begin with, but then she's become sort of even smaller through this hunch. She's probably under 5 feet tall with the hunched back. And she has some like scarring on her face from things probably that the master did. Not entirely sure what her childhood was like, but she's been in the employ of the master for a long time, and he's not a particularly nice fellow. And I think the fact that she doesn't feel pain, he's a little bit cavalier about things when he's in a bad mood. So whether or not anybody else thinks she's specifically ugly as opposed to just like sort of hunched over and scarred, she feels very ugly all the time. So a picture of her would be her sort of in her cloak, like in a crowd of people, but trying to not be noticed, and probably succeeding for the most part, and like looking around because she's scouting. And the hump would be really prominent, and whatever you could see of her face would have scarring on it.
Okay. What about Handsome Hal? If we were to see a early photograph of Handsome Hal, what would we see?
So his photograph is a publicity shot from one of the Count's earlier kind of experimental performances that was kind of chess themed. So it took place on this like giant chessboard, and so you see various people that are dressed up to represent the different chess pieces, and so they're in sort of full costume. So there's like some children that are the pawns, but they've got like, medieval style like helmets and armor and spears that they're holding, and they're, all this kind of stuff. But Handsome Hal kind of stands out. He's right in the center of the photo because he is almost entirely nude. He's got like almost like a wreath around his midsection for modesty, and he's got this elaborate jeweled crown, and he's the king on the chessboard, and it's all kind of arranged to like draw your vision towards him standing there with like one hand in the air holding one of the ball with a little cross on it that you see the monarchs holding, and so he's sort of holding it up and contemplating it while there are these other chess pieces around him.
Okay. I like the contrast between him and Bupu already. And what about Ekek?
Well, Ekek is an absolute monster. I mean, he looks monstrous. I added a picture that I found that I think is very evocative at the bottom of the character keeper. He looks like this man-like creature with a monstrous face and bat-like wings.
Good heavens.
And talons. Is that a reaction to the photo, the image? Yeah, he is appalling. He usually is out in the evenings at night because he prefers not to be seen. because he tends to terrify people.
All right. Okay, why don't we dive into this? I'll establish an opening scene, and your characters are all going to be part of the opening scene. It's a morning of what seems to be a typical day, but you have all been alerted that Louis Auguste needs to see you at the amphitheater, and it's urgent. Okay, and when you arrive at the amphitheater, I think you all would be aware that Louis Auguste has been interested in adding some aerial elements to the theater. Trapeze, acrobatics in the air that would be going on in unison with musical and dance numbers that would be going on stage. But there would be a kind of visual physics that would be carried out during these musical dance numbers of this new kind of theatrical form. But when you arrive, you notice that something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. You see some of the ropes and the chains and cables have come undone and are kind of dangling over the stage. When he was first sitting up this kind of trapeze work, you've seen a little bit the way it's supposed to look, but it clearly things have broken in the midst of something. Okay. You also see Louis Auguste in the middle of the stage of the amphitheater, and you see some of his theatrical engineers who are kind of cowering off to the side. Before you've appeared, he clearly has been dressing down, and perhaps Louis Auguste or somebody else has been bludgeoning some of them. They have bruises that are on their faces, and Louis Auguste is still yelling at them. You know, how could you allow something like this to happen? I have this grand idea of some new visual physics that we would add to my theatrical productions, and you've been working on this. You've been assuring me that this would happen without a hitch, and we really start to implement it. The initial experiments looked terrific, but then a few days into the testing out of this, and things have come apart. And not only that, but a couple of my acrobats are now no longer able to carry forward because they tumbled to the ground in splattered heaps. And now they're being tended to by my doctors, but my doctors are not very hopeful that they will be returning to the trapeze. And so we've got a big problem on our hands. I mean, the idea here was to create kind of human pendulums that would be swinging through the air in synchronicity to this grand swelling music. And my dream must be realized, but there's been a big wrinkle added to my dream. So Louis Auguste is dressing down these theatrical engineers, and other people are arriving on the scene. I mean, we have Hal and Ek and Bupu. You notice that there's the chief choreographer of the production that's there. The musical director is there. He has surrounding him now, his, chief advisors and, the people that he turns to for, kind of implementing his ideas and kind of helping him out. And he kind of turns to the group of you three, as well as some of the other chief advisors, creative directors, and says, I need solutions. It is time for us to come together and figure out what we can do to move this forward. There cannot be any delays. We need an immediate fix. We need new acrobats. We need we need to carry forward with the new trapeze training. And I think we certainly need to let the village and the surrounding villages know that nothing has happened here. And Louis Auguste turns specifically to Handsome Hal. And he says, he puts his hand on your shoulder, Handsome Hal, and says, Hal, you are looking resplendent today. You look terrific. And I am in need of some of your charm. I know that the journalists of Malvonia and some of the surrounding villages who have been looking intently at what I am up to are going to be asking questions. I can see that the rumor mill possibly is already starting, and I think we need to make sure that the newspapers present the correct message. Hal, how do you think that we should handle this?
And I think Hal is kind of nodding along as the Count's explaining this. He says, "Well, of course, Your Excellency. I will go out and talk with the press and make sure that they understand the artistic vision that is being created here, and denounce in no uncertain terms the scurrilous rumors that have circulated that are really, I think, and I will suggest this to the press with your approval, I think are being planted by some of your rivals who are jealous of your accomplishments. And I think these journalists need to fact check their sources a little more carefully."
Hal, I knew that I could count on you. And now he puts his second hand on your other shoulder and is kind of looking at you, and he's smiling, and he says, Hal, one other thing I need to let you know as you kind of talk to these journalists. There's one journalist in particular who has come to my attention, and that is somebody named Brigitte Zoberg from the newspaper Degens Neerter. Do you know this journalist?
I do. Yes, I do.
She's been nosing around. I've seen some of her reporting, and I am appalled. All sorts of fake news that she is reporting about what this is all about. And I tell you, if she catches wind of what has happened here, I am very, very fearful of what she will report and what kinds of fake stories she's going to concoct about this. I need you to go specifically and make sure that she gets the story straight, right? And the story is that nobody got hurt, and that we have been doing some stress tests on the trapeze system to see exactly how far it can be pushed to make sure that it is safe and secure for any acrobats who try this out. And that if, people think that something untoward has happened here, that is a fake story, and that everything is in order. And in fact, we were just doing kind of extreme safety tests just to make sure that all of this was going to be safe, secure, that our human pendulums would move in perfect synchronicity to the music. Can I count on you to make sure that Brigitte gets this straight?
And so Hala is like clenched up inside at the thought of having to lie, because he's seen what happened, right? So he's clenched up inside at the thought of having to lie to this particular journalist, but he gives his biggest smile and looks the Count in the eye and says, "Of course, Your Excellency, of course."
Okay. So in terms of the way the mechanic works, when you get a kind of order or a command from the master, you have an option. You can go on and carry forth with that order, or you can at some point try to resist it. Okay, and if you try to resist it, there's a dice roll that will occur. Okay. Now, if you fail the dice roll, you have to continue to carry out that order up until the time that there would be another dice roll activated. That usually would involve, it would usually involve doing some type of action directed normally at a non-player character. Okay. So like Stentor, in this case, if you tried to resist this at some point, and if you failed to resist it, you would have to go to Brigitte and try to kind of give her the quote unquote straight story. The story that, Louis Auguste wants Brigitte to get. Now, that would involve a roll as well as to whether you're able to kind of convince Brigitte to kind of do this. At that point that you make that roll, the command of the master then is kind of completely voluntary for you. Okay, once you get to that one roll, you can at that point decide, okay, I'm not going to follow the master's directive anymore. Or if you want to kind of continue on to try to follow it out, you can if you want to. Did I explain that clearly enough? So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I'm envisioning that at this moment Hal is going along with it, but I'm envisioning something happening when he actually approaches her that will put him in a position of potentially wanting to resist the order, and that'll come up then.
Okay. Yeah, and then the one other thing I would want to point out is that if you want to make an overture to your connection, so Brigitte is one of your connections, and your minion can earn love from Brigitte by making an overture to her. And an overture then would involve a scene or part of a scene where you would be trying to kind of get some type of favorable attention from her. So you can kind of announce that, you would like to kind of move in that direction. Okay. And that goes for anybody, if at some point, you would like to kind of go to one of your connections and make some type of overture to win love from them, you can do that. Okay. You can also, the rules allow you, if you are not stuck with only your two connections. Also, if there's another NPC that gets introduced and you'd like to make that another one of your connections that you would make overtures to, you can do that. So, it kind of is open-ended in terms of how you kind of, kind of pursue your connections and try to kind of win love. Okay.
Can we have more than two connections at a time, or if
yes, you may. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is also permissible for multiple players to have the same connection. Okay. So yeah, all of that is open. Handsome Hal, are you going to kind of go off to find the journalist now? And
yeah, I think I'm going to head into town and look for the various journalists. I think I'll probably start with like the local paper and stuff to work up to talking to Brigitte.
Okay.
Because I think she's probably the biggest name in town right now because she's, from a foreign news organization and so forth. So I'll probably start with some of the local people.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where I'm off to.
All right. So Handsome Hal heads off, and Louis Auguste now turns to Bupu and says, Bupu, we need new acrobats. I'm planning to get my worthless engineers to put this setup back together again and get it operating. But I need us to get some new acrobats. And I have an idea as to where we might be able to get them. There's a carnival that is in the village over the mountain. And the carnival manager is somebody that I know. His name is Louis Vivant. And the carnival has a tremendous aerial trapeze act. It's one of the big draws of the carnival. And I wonder if you might go over there, check out this act. You're a good scout. You may not be a good talker, but you have the sight to kind of figure out like the good talent for me. So I was thinking maybe you could go over there and scout out some talent. Now, Louis Vivant, he's a fast talking kind of guy, and very eloquent. I know that he's not going to want to give up with you know, his good talent. But, you know, I have resources, you know, you've always come through in a pinch for me. And do you think maybe you could see if you could pull some of your charm on Le Coeur Vivant and see what kind of talent he has, and get a couple of those, if they look like they are up to what we need, get them to be our new acrobats?
If Master tell me what to say, I can say to Circus Man.
If I can tell you what to say. Well, I'll tell you a couple things that you need to say. You can say, Louis Auguste will sing your praises when this new spectacle appears. He will give you the credit for bringing up the talent, for cultivating the talent of these amazing human pendulums that people see swinging across the stage.
Okay. Boo-poo get.
Okay, and Boo-poo, I know that sometimes you're at a little loss for words. So tell you what, I have here a book from my library. And it is a collection of eloquent aphorisms. These are like, you know, short statements that you can make, and they will make it appear like you are somebody who is good with words and in the know. So why don't you take this, and he kind of presents to you, he kind of has a bag by him, and he kind of pulls this out. And, you know, it's a kind of small leather-bound book. And it has a title, 1001 Eloquent Aphorisms for Any Occasion, on it. And he passes this book to you, and he says, you know, maybe there's something in there that will prove useful to you.
Okay. So I start. Louis Auguste will sing your praises when the new spectacle appears. He will speak glowingly of you when the acrobats swing across the stage. And then Boo-poo look at book for more words.
Yeah, find something in there that seems to work.
How I get to neighboring town over mountain.
For that, he turns to Ekek and says, Ekek,
yes.
I think we need a way to get Boo-poo over the mountain to visit Le Coeur Vivant's carnival. Do you think you could get there? Do you think you could get there with Boo-poo?
Carry Boo-poo the whole way. That's very heavy. That would be very tiring.
Boo-poo very small.
If I stop a few times to rest, yes, probably. I know this village. I've seen it. I've flown by it.
Okay, so give it your best to get Bupu there. And Ekek, once you get her there, I need you to fly back here because I think I am going to need your help in this amphitheater. I think that your special ability to fly might be of service to me as we try to put this machinery back together. And I might also need your help in terms of testing things out here again. Once we get the machinery back together, I'm going to need somebody to kind of try it out. And you with those wings of yours, you know, as smelly as you are, you know, people in the amphitheater will put up with the stench for a little bit as you kind of help to kind of test out the new machinery once we get that back together to make sure that it seems to be okay and operating.
I will do what I can. I will do what I can. Okay.
Okay, and Ekek, why don't you describe what this looks like now? You know, you know, Louis Auguste is kind of looking at you intently. He loves to watch you fly. So describe what this looks like as you kind of set off on your journey across the mountain.
Yes. So so I think he starts off by making sure that Bupu is sort of very well like wrapped up in some sort of garment, right? Like in like a sort of a sling sort of arrangement, so that she will be comfortable. And then he just like leaves her standing there, and he crouches down on all fours and springs up into the air, and his wings unfold, and he flaps and flies up, and he flies off. He flies quite high, and then he circles around, and he comes swooping down, diving down directly at Bupu. And just as he's about to get to her, he pulls up, grabs the harness of fabric around her, and just jerks her up, and off they fly.
And Bupu, what is your reaction to this maneuver?
I think you just hear a series of like startled and slightly grumbly noises because she's been grabbed by her like clothing, so she's kind of wrapped up and but she probably can't talk. She's not good at talking in the best of circumstances, and while being like hauled in an awkward position by her clothing, I don't think she would do much other than try to find a way to make it the most comfortable it can be given the circumstances.
Right. Okay. All right. So off you go. Let's come back to Handsome Hal now. And Hal, you start off with the local paper. They know you. I mean, they deal with you on a regular basis. You know, there's, I mean, it's kind of a small operation, but the fellow who runs the paper, I'll give him a name. We'll call him Drakemore. We'll just call him Drakemore. Okay, he's the guy who runs the paper. He sees you approaching, and he gives you his full attention. Drakemore has had dealings with you, and he doesn't especially like you or Louis Auguste, you suspect. But if you tell him what he needs to print, he begrudgingly will do it. And you get a sense that he does it grudgingly because he knows that it would be dangerous for him not to do it. So, you approach his office. He sees you walk in. He's a kind of thin fellow. He wears kind of dark clothes, and his hands are always just kind of covered in ink, and he has smudges of ink on his face as well. And he says, "Hi, Hal. What can I do for you?"
And so I think Hal kind of struts confidently up to the desk and, kind of puts his hands down on it and says, "Mr. Drakemore, I've come to offer you some exclusive quotes for your next story on the Count's new production. He wanted me to let you have the first crack at this because you have done such an outstanding job in reporting on his art, and so to reward you, he wanted me to give you this exclusive insight into the creative process."
And Drakemore, when you says this, you see his eyes rolling a little bit, and he's like, "Okay, I know." And he calls one of his workers over. He says, "We'll just call him." I'm coming up with names on the fly here. Bildor, come over here. The scoop. Bildor is a very young fellow. He has a pad of paper and a pen, a fountain pen that he carries over with him. And Drakemore says, "Bildor, take down what he gives you, and Hal will put it in the paper with a nice, scintillating, suitably glorifying headline about the
I want this to make the evening edition."
You want it to make the evening edition? Yeah, we can get it in the evening edition for you.
Perfect. And then I think Hal will just kind of dictate to Bill Moore the more or less what the Count said when we were at the auditorium.
Yeah, and you get this is like the typical thing, right? I mean, anytime you talk to Drakemore and the local paper, that they are reluctantly willing to kind of print what Louis Auguste needs in the newspaper. Let's move ahead though to how you want to handle Brigitte.
Okay. So where do I find her?
I think Louis Auguste knows that the press is important, and he wants coverage if it's the appropriate type of coverage, of course. He wants the coverage. And so in the local inn, he has, he tells the local inn to give, good treatment to the press. And you would know that Brigitte, as well as, any other kind of visiting journalists would be found there, or you could at least get them a message if you needed to meet with them.
And what has been the quality of the stories that she's produced about the Count thus far, or has she actually published anything yet?
Why don't we say that she has She's printed a couple of stories, and I think the stories, they haven't been scathing, but they certainly have raised questions. They have occasionally raised some questions. These couple stories have raised questions as to whether the Count's artistic vision is all that Louis Auguste makes it out to be. Right. Her suggestion sometimes is that he cobbles together, disparate ideas, thinking that it's somehow kind of earth-shattering and revolutionary, when sometimes it just kind of comes across as kind of just cobbled together ideas that don't really make sense.
Okay. So she's a not exactly hostile, but slightly difficult reporter to work with.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll go into the inn and look around, see if I see her there. If not, I'll approach the person at the counter to ask if she's been around and where I might find her.
Yeah, I think, what we could say to kind of speed it along is maybe she's not there initially, but you would be given instructions as to where she is. And, she's down at a, you would finally meet up with her. I would imagine, she's kind of interviewing people in an active part of town. Like she's in a kind of central market business area of town. And when she sees you, Hal, she says, "Oh, Hal, you're the kind of person I want to see, because I've been hearing that there's something that's gone on down at the amphitheater, and they're not letting me or anybody else down there. I've heard that there's been some type of accident."
So Hal gives her a big dramatic bow and says, "Yes, I've been coming to find you about just this very topic. Is there a quiet place that we can sit and we can discuss the Count's current production? I want to make sure that everything that gets into the press is as accurate as possible. I'm sure that as a journalist, you understand the need to spread only the most accurate information to all of your readers."
Well, of course, it's important to print accurate information, and I've already been collecting some information. I've got some information that there has been an accident, and that it seems like there had been some injuries. Does that square with what you would be telling me?
So I'm trying to decide at what point Hal is going to risk like cracking here. So because I think one way that he might approach this, or that he might be tempted to approach this, is to kind of quietly let her in on some of what's going on. So let's say if we're going in that direction, if being being confronted like this by someone whose opinion he cares about, because he doesn't really care about the local guy, right? Like, you know, he doesn't care if that guy thinks. I mean, that guy obviously does think Hal's kind of a douchebag, and he doesn't really care. But he actually cares what
Brigitte.
Yeah, Brigitte thinks of him. Yeah. So, you know, he's going to be tempted to kind of admit some of the things and still maybe try to steer it in a more positive direction, but not to just, you know, outright total denial. So if you were to want to do that, how would that work mechanically?
Okay, so the way the mechanic would work then is we would make the roll to see whether you're able to resist the master's command. If you, more likely than not, you are going to fail that. Like at the very beginning part of the game, it's heavily stacked against the minions. Okay,
right.
But after you make that roll, so you know, more likely than not, at the beginning, you would fail that roll. You would have to kind of proceed a little bit with trying to kind of carry out the master's command. And then we would have a second roll. There's a you know, there's a role for violence against an NPC. I don't see that this would be going probably towards the violence, but but there is also a role for villainy against an NPC opponent, and this would be a type of villainy, right? Because you are trying to kind of present the false news story that the master wants you to give. So we would make that roll to see whether or not that is successful, and at that point, regardless of the outcome of that roll, you would then be able to kind of basically make the decision as to what you wanted to do, and that would also include an opportunity to make some type of gesture or overture to establish some type of relationship with Brigitte.
Okay. All right. So let's start by resisting the command. Then, what do I roll?
So I as the master am going to get fear plus self-loathing. So I have a fear of 4, and your self-loathing is 3. Okay. And I also will claim an intimacy die with you, because I was intentionally with putting my hands on your shoulders and kind of getting close to you. Yeah, I was giving you this. I was gonna, you know, kind of do that as kind of demonstrating a kind of intimacy attempt. So that's gonna give me 8 to roll. So the 4 for the fear, your 3 self-loathing, and then that intimacy. Okay. And then you get love, which currently is 0, minus your weariness, which is 0, but you always get to roll 1. Okay.
Okay.
And these are all 4-sided dice. Okay.
D4s. Okay.
And the way this works, a 4 is a 0. Okay. You don't get anything for a 4. But 1, 2s, and 3s, you just add up how many total you get of 1, 2s, and 3s. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm rolling 1d4.
Yes, and I'll be rolling
8 d4. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Oh,
I got a 3.
I
did the best I could possibly do.
Yes, and so then I'll roll 8. Oh, I need to make sure it's the D4s that I'm rolling. All right, so I rolled a lot of 3s and 2s. So you have to carry out the command, and so just to take this a little further, then. So what do you tell Brigitte? I mean, your fear of the master is sufficient that, you know, you'd like to resist, but you're not really able to resist because of the fear and self-loathing.
Sorry, my cat was causing trouble behind me. Yeah, so yeah, Hal feels conflicted because he knows she's onto it, and that, you know, he can't sort of intimidate her through his connection to the Count the way he can with the local guy, because, you know, she's just visiting here, but he also, you know, can't really go back on the Count right now as he promised. And so I think he just straight up denies that anything bad has happened, and insists that they're doing some very strenuous safety tests on all of the equipment, and that the Count would never allow anyone to perform on equipment that hadn't been fully tested under, you know, high stress conditions to make absolutely sure that nothing would go wrong. So I think he just flat out denies it, and insists that. Actually, I think this is where he drops the claim that the rumors to the contrary, you know, might be coming from someone with an axe to grind against the Count.
And what kind of a person would that be? Brigitte asks. I mean, who would have an interest in passing off false rumors?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to name any particular names without any, you know, concrete evidence. I mean, you know that the libel laws are very, very strict. But I would just caution you as a journalist to keep in mind that there are a lot of people in this world with pretensions of artistic greatness. And sometimes when someone fancies themselves a great artist and they encounter someone who is actually a great artist, they can become jealous. They can lash out. They can try to undercut someone who is accomplishing the thing that they only wish that they could accomplish. So I'm not trying to accuse anyone in particular, but I think you should be careful about what you hear and who might have a motivation or, you know, a reason to not tell you the full truth. And inside Hal's like, you know, like me. But yeah, so that's what he says to her.
Okay, so why don't we go on and do the role of the villainy against the NPC? So in this case, you are going to get to roll your fear plus your self-loathing. So because that's what's kind of motivating you right now is, so you get 4 for the fear, and then you have 3 self-loathing, correct? So, and we'll go in and clear those. So you'll get to roll 7.
So the fear is something that belongs to the master, and that'll always be the same for all of us.
Correct.
That's not an individual stat.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm rolling 7 total then.
Right.
Okay. And these are still D4s.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I add them up?
Yeah. So you got 13. I'll go on, right, because we discount the 4, so it's
right. Yeah.
Yeah. You got 13. I don't even think it's possible. And the opponent here rolls reason, which is 4, right? So, all right. So that would just come out. I rolled 2 4s, which are discounted, so it's just 6. So, you know, Brigitte, you can kind of see as you've kind of been spinning this web of lies to her. You see that she's actually kind of listening to you and jotting down this web of lies that you are giving her. and you know, maybe she seems a little bit skeptical. It's like, you know, sometimes she says, you know, you get a sense like I kind of expected this kind of a story, but you know, she's kind of dutiful and kind of taking down what you are giving her about, right, and is also kind of been curious about, you know, somebody who might be trying to derail Louis Auguste. So at this point, Hal, it's kind of the ball is in your court as to like where you want to take this, because if you know, she is here in front of you right now. So if you wanted to kind of try to do something that would turn this into some type of an overture to her, that is a possibility.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm trying to think what a good way to do this is in the context of, you know, lying to her face about the production. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what a good way to kind of get on her good side. So overture, it's basically anything that would kind of create a bond or a relationship is what we're looking for.
Yeah, some type of bond or relationship that would be obviously something different than what this relationship is. Which right now this relationship is just like, oh, you're just the official PR person, and she's a reporter. And what we could do here, because we've been here for about an hour and a half. Why don't we do this? We could take a little 7-minute break. And then when we come back from that, you know, you can kind of mull that over, Stentor. Okay. And then we'll do that, and then we'll flip to what's going on with Bupu and Ekek. Okay.
All right.
All right. So we'll be back in like 7 minutes. Okay. And I should just looking at the rules. Okay, so Stentor, with the role that we just did, where you had success, correct?
Right.
In that case, your self-loathing increases by 1 as a result of getting a success on that.
Okay, so I go up to 4 self-loathing. All right. Okay, so are we good to go?
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Okay. And so you're still you're talking to Brigitte.
Yeah. So I think what I do to try to like make that connection is that so she had written this previous article that was kind of like the preview article about here's this count and he's planning this big show and stuff, and it was like this long article and it had a lot of background about the town and stuff. It's one of those articles that you don't necessarily expect that everybody's going to read all the way through to the end, but so towards the end she wrote about in just describing the town and stuff. There's in the town cemetery, there's a mausoleum that has these like Sphinx sculptures on it, and she like made a big deal about this in like describing the town. But this isn't something that people in town really care much about. Like people might kind of know, okay, there's that funny mausoleum there. People don't pay a lot of attention to it. She clearly seemed to like latch onto this for some reason in her story. And so I think that when Hal is getting ready to leave, he's kind of tells her, if you have any more questions about the show, just get in touch with me. I'm happy to fill you in on stuff, and I'm not going to tell you riddles like some sort of Sphinx, and kind of almost like winks at her to indicate that he's this is kind of like a, hey, I read your entire long article. Kind of thing. So kind of trying to impress her with his attention to her work.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. And she would, probably be the kind of person that would pick up on this, that, and what this would mean then is, but before we do the role, so she, you say you have this kind of allusion to the Sphinx, and she says, "Oh, what do you mean? What exactly do you mean by that reference to the Sphinx?"
I think he'll straight up tell her that, like, well, I read about in your article there, I saw you were very interested in our Sphinx mausoleum.
Yeah, and could we say that this is the mausoleum where Louis Auguste's parents are buried? Would that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, I don't know where that would go, but that might potentially be.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to make more of these complicated connections that might be useful later. Yeah. So sure, yeah, maybe that's like the Auguste family mausoleum.
Right.
And so the parents are in there, and probably like the grandparents and the great-grandparents back several generations are in there.
Okay. All right, let's go on and do this roll then. Right. So you're going to roll reason minus self-loathing.
Okay. So since my self-loathing just went up, that's 0.
Okay, so you get to roll 1.
Okay, I still do get to roll 1.
Yeah, you always get to roll 1. Even if it goes negative, you can roll 1.
Okay. All right, and I got a 1.
Got a 1. And I roll fear minus reason. And so that's a 0. So that means I get to roll 1 for this. And we'll see. And I rolled a 2. So here's what the outcome is. Failing the roll or not, the minion still gets the point of love.
Okay.
Right. You have demonstrated your humanity regardless of the outcome. Okay. But let's say, but it says you also get a point of self-loathing, and the scene is role-played with a shared understanding that the NPC's reaction should deliver a blow to the minion's self-esteem. Okay. But before you add that, it also has this. If a role would ever result in a minion's self-loathing growing greater than love plus reason. Right now, that would be 5, right? Because you got the point of love. So I guess you would still get your self-loathing is going to go to 5, correct?
Okay.
And it's not greater than love plus reason now. So so you get the point of love, but the NPC is not going to have. I think what Brigitte says is she says, well, you know, it's not surprising that the Auguste family mausoleum would have sphinxes on it. You know, the Auguste family never gives you a straight story about anything, right? Everything is just kind of shrouded in mysteries and double talk and kind of more questions than answers that are provided. So she kind of gives you that response that kind of is you know, giving you the sense that you know, as a journalist, right? She's kind of frustrated in dealing with Louis Auguste and kind of all the kind of different stories and kind of mystifying stories that often seem to kind of get generated around the Auguste family. Okay. But yeah, you got your point of love. We're gonna I think turn now to Bupu and Ekek. You have successfully made your way over the mountain, and you know, as you crest the mountain, Ekek, you kind of it becomes easier for you. Obviously, you're now kind of over the mountain, so you can kind of glide a little bit down to the other side. And as you approach the village, you do see the carnival tents that have been set up on the edge of town. So Ekek, what do you do?
I see. I'd like to avoid people and drop Buku off somewhere close to the tents, but so that nobody will see me flying in carrying Buku.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that would be a fairly kind of easy task. This is a wooded region, right? So it's you know, you can kind of keep, you know, close to the level above the trees, so you're not going to be you know, seen by many people. You kind of land, and Bupu, you kind of maybe a slightly rough landing, but you're kind of none the worse for wear. And you see a short distance off the carnival. And Ek, at this point, what are you going to do? Are you going to make your way back over the mountain?
He did tell me to come back, but I think I'm hungry. I think after that long journey, I'm gonna look for something to eat around town first.
Okay. Are you trying to kind of be resistant to the master's command here, or are you? Is this going to be this kind of quick thing and then?
I mean, I could go either way. I think. I mean, I'll leave it to you if it's quick enough that I need to like make a resistance roll. I just thought it might be interesting to like I mean, Ekek was not instructed to like talk to anybody here, but I think it would be interesting to have some interaction with the town. And I wanted to drop Bupu off so that Bupu wasn't seen with me because I knew that would interfere with Bupu's mission, most likely. But I can fly right back as well. I just thought it could be fun to. I'm giving you the opportunity to tempt me to interact with someone here. If you prefer, I can just go straight back to the master too. Whatever you think's a better scene.
All right. Yeah, I think an interaction would be interesting. It's going to have to be quick. I mean, if you want to make it kind of a more extended kind of interaction, then I think it would be a kind of resistance. But yeah, if you want to just...
I don't have anything in mind. I'm just adding some color.
Okay. So we'll quickly do that. I mean, what kind of a place are you looking for to get something? Are you just looking for like a street stall or something like that? That would be...
Yeah, basically. I think I'm like a seagull, right? Like I think I kind of like try and perch out of the way a little bit. I think sometimes when I'm really hungry, I'll actually like make myself seen by someone in like knowing that it might just scare them off, and then I can like, and then they'll like drop their sandwich or whatever, like Little Miss Muppet, and I can just jump over and grab it. I've done that before.
Yeah, so I'd say at the on the edge of town near where you have dropped Bupu off, you see that there's a little kind of lawn area, and it's kind of the middle of the day right now, so people are you do see some people that are over there enjoying their lunch, and it is you have a fairly surrounding the village. It is fairly dense wood, so you would have some cover if you were kind of looking to kind of get kind of close to these people. I would say that as you approach, the people kind of closest to you, it'd be like maybe a small family that's there, and you see the kids in the family who you kind of get a little bit close. They haven't really noticed you, but you see this little boy saying, "What is that smell? Is that like I don't know, something died in the forest?" And
from the cover of the dark woods, I sort of flap my wings just a little bit to like send a very slight breeze over there so that they can smell me even more.
Yeah, well, and with that, there's a little girl and the mother, and they all kind of are like, "What is that?" And it is overpowering to them, and they are kind of starting to kind of gather up their things to kind of make their way to a different area.
Oh, they're gathering up the picnic?
Yes.
Oh, that doesn't do me any good. So I jump from the woods right near them, and I go, "Ah, ah, ah," and I try and scare them off.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty effective. And that's not going to require well, I don't know. I mean, it could be yeah, let's make that a roll. I mean, that's kind of like a villainy against an NPC. I mean, you're trying to get some type of real kind of negative reaction, right?
Yeah.
Out of them. All right, so that, get my little cheat sheet here. So you got fear plus your self-loathing. What is your self-loathing number? It's
2.
Okay, so you're gonna roll. Yeah, you're gonna roll 6.
Okay.
And I'll go in and clear this out. So roll 6 4-sided die. And I'm gonna roll.
I got a 9.
Yes, and I'm gonna roll 4. Yeah, so you are successful. This is going to result. Well, they are going to leave the food behind for you, so you will definitely get that. And this is going to result in gaining 1 self-loathing tacked on. But they are suitably scared out of their wits, and you hear them say, "Not only does it smell, but look at him." And right, the mother is kind of taking the little boy and little girl under her wings, and they are kind of quickly making their way and screaming off to leave the area. So what does Ekek do?
Well, he goes over to what they've dropped, and what exactly did they drop?
I would say it's some fresh baked bread and a little chunk of cheese that is there, and we could say maybe some small little tart apples that are common in this area. They have those there as well.
Okay. So and did they drop any like possessions as well? Like, was it like a basket or a blanket or anything like that? Or
yeah, I can imagine that. Right? They had some type of little kind of covering that they had on the ground that they had kind of left behind.
Okay. So I think I mean I am famished after carrying through this the whole way. So I think I just eat all the food. Well, I think I just grab everything and go into the woods to hide, and then I eat all the food, and then I like take the blanket and I like fold it up very nicely, and I place it like on a kind of on a like a out in the meadow where it can be found again. And then I go back into the woods and I fly away.
Okay. Yeah, and I imagine it's kind of like you could tell it's like a kind of nicely hand woven kind of blanket with maybe a little embroidery kind of stitched around the edges of it. But you're leaving that behind for.
Yeah, and I like purposefully like put it so it can be found. I don't just like leave it in the woods. I fold it up and I put it where they can come back and someone can get it again.
Okay, and then you're off to fly back over the mountain to see what else Louis Auguste would have you do. Let's go to Bupu now. You are placed down in the forest, but in very close proximity to the carnival. And the carnival, I'd say it's a kind of small affair, but there is clearly like a central tent that is set up, and it's it's a decently tall tent that they have set up.
Okay. So it's the kind of carnival that it's like all under one big top for the most part?
Yeah, I'd say one primary big top and then a few surrounding smaller tents that they have.
Okay.
Yeah, but the main action is obviously going to be that central tent.
Okay. I think Bupu is cautious because she's not often sent outside of the main village. and like this is very unfamiliar
Mm-hmm.
to her. She doesn't know how the people of this place will react. Like at least the people in the village where they live are sort of used to her weird appearance and sort of skulking about. So I think she is gonna go up to the main tent, but then sort of like go around the side and try to find like a small gap in the tent material.
Right.
And just try to listen to hear what's going on inside before she moves any further.
Yeah, it's midday, and you hear noise in there. It's not the noise of a big crowd or anything, but you know, you hear movement, you hear people kind of talking to each other, sometimes, you know, shouting to each other. You clearly kind of make it out that they are getting ready for a show, but the crowd has not you know, shown up yet. But you hear people saying, "Oh, you know, lift those trapezes up there. Let's get the net. Let's be sure to get the net securely in place. You know, people are going to be arriving in the next hour, so you know, we need to get a move on it." Yeah, there's clearly a kind of you know, activity going on to kind of have this all set up.
Okay, so I think Boo Boo wants to use her adeptness at sneaking to kind of find a way to sneak into the tent and like find a tiny hiding spot somewhere. Because in order to really see what's going on, she wants to see the show.
Okay.
And is gonna not try to talk to what was the fellow's name?
I think it's like Loquar Vivant.
Loquar Vivant. I should write that down. Oh, where's my pencil? So yeah, I think she's gonna wait to talk to Loquar Vivant until she actually sees like whether they have anyone who's talented enough, but also how many there are, because that's gonna change her approach.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, you see them when you get in, you're not going to be noticed. I mean, that everybody is in there kind of active and kind of focused on other things. And you do see, you know, a guy, very large fellow, with kind of brightly colored, kind of sparkling jacket and pants that he has on, with a nice hat that he is carrying, and he seems to be the one who really is running the show and is, you know, kind of you know, giving commands to people as to what needs to be done. They do get this you know, I mean, you when you look up at the ceiling of the big top, you do see the trapeze up there, and you know, they have a complete trapeze troupe up there. They get a kind of net in place, and you see them kind of doing some, you know, kind of just initial kind of stunts and routines that are up there. The trapeze artists are, I would say, young, and you know, you would guess that they are, you know, maybe generally 17, 18 years old. And I mean, you look at them, and it doesn't take long for you to realize that, yeah, they kind of know what they're doing. I mean, they're quite athletic, quite nimble up there. And yeah, I mean, that they clearly have talent and experience with what they are doing. I mean,
Okay.
it looks like that you know the net is there in place for safety, but it looks like with the types of things that they're doing that you know that they probably wouldn't really need the net with at least the types of routines that you know they're doing at least to warm up with.
Okay. So I probably don't need to actually watch the show to get the sense that they would be the sort of people that the master would want.
I would say, I mean, you don't know like how far they would push things, but you know they could do the type of thing where you know they you know they can you know hang from their legs. They can do you know these triple somersaults, flips, and get caught. That in terms of like basic routine stuff, they look pretty good.
Okay. What I should have done was ask the master for some sort of opening greeting, but I didn't. So we're gonna see if there's a moment where Le Choir Vivant in all the sparkles looks like he's less busy. Like as a person in the entertainment business, interrupting someone right before a show is usually not the best way to make the best impression. So unless he looks like he is not busy, Boo-Boo's gonna wait, because she has learned by being sort of struck at and sent out of places when interrupting at the wrong times. As I think a lot of people treat Boo-Boo as lesser than, because she is this odd little creature. So she has learned not to interrupt when she thinks people will get irritated.
Okay.
So does he look like approachable, or does he look like he's busy trying to get ready for the show?
I mean, he does look like he's busy getting ready for the show. You know, Boo-Boo, you would need to decide, you know, whether you want to try to interrupt him a little bit, or you know, or are you wanting to just kind of wait and kind of hide out for the show and then try to get him afterwards?
I think I would wait and hide out for the show, because the goal is to like act on the master's behalf. And if I interrupt and he gets mad, he's less likely to listen to my already likely to be a bit stilted attempts to convey the goal. So, so she hides like under a little table or something.
Right. And so if you wait, I mean, this is going to be a small little kind of matinee performance that goes on. You know, you'll you know, they have various you know, they have some, you know, trained horses that come in, you know, what you would typically expect from a carnival. They have some, you know, fire eaters that come in and do things, and people who can, you know, contortionists, things like that. You see the trapeze, you can kind of see them, you know, doing their thing, and they're very, very adept at what they do. We'll say that there are, you know, 6 of them, 4 young ladies and 2 young men who kind of are up there. The show is, you know, good. I mean, it's a good little carnival show. Takes, you know, a little over an hour. It ends, and there would be an opportunity at this point, you know, as you know, the crowd files out, if you want to kind of make an approach to Le Choir Vivant. He's been kind of running the show during the right. He's the kind of running the big top, and you know he's very animated. He says, you know, look now at the amazing fire eaters from the distant south, and right, he has the talk and the and it's all very, you know, polished.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Boo-Boo has been thinking over the course of the show, and has felt that as far as the scouting goes, she's definitely discovered people the master would like, but she's not sure she's equipped to like convince anyone to cross over the mountain and change forces. But what she's now thinking she can do is find out where the circus is headed next and try to convince them to come to the town. That way, the master can send whoever he wants to possibly convince Le Croix Vivant to let go of some of his artists. She doesn't really feel equal to the task, basically, but
okay. And Bupu's thinking about trying to persuade them to
bring their show,
to bring the show to
our town. What's our town called?
What did I call it? What did I have? It was Malvonia.
Malvonia.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they're a traveling circus anyway, that they should bring their circus through Malvonia. And she will either hitch a ride with them, or if Master sends Ekek back for her, hopefully beat them back to tell Master what's going on. But if she can get them to come and do their show, then she can tell the Master what she's seen and also let him see for himself, and then maybe have Handsome Hal sent in to do some persuading. Because the persuading part is not Bupu's specialty.
Mm-hmm.
She has her book of aphorisms, and actually looked up a book of aphorisms and copied some of them over, but it's hard to speak only in aphorisms for a full conversation. And yeah, I think this seems to her like the most likely thing for success, regardless of
okay. And you would see this as still kind of carrying forth with the Master's command. It's still trying to get the acrobats to kind of come right.
Yes. This is her way of doing what she thinks will actually work to carry out the Master's command. She doesn't think she's capable of carrying it out as...
Okay.
I mean, well, so I should have written down the exact command. The command was to scout mostly, and then to try to talk to Mr. Vivant. But
yeah, and I mean the gist of it is to try to get a couple good new acrobats to become part of the kind of spectacle show that Louis Auguste is trying to put on.
Yeah. So I think Bupu doesn't think she can do it. She doesn't think she can convince either Mr. Vivant or the acrobats to just like abandon their current thing. So she would like to sort of lure the whole act to the town.
Okay.
And then people more adept at this sort of thing could handle that element.
Okay. Well, I think we should do the scene with you and Loquar then to see how that goes. So Loquar is there, and so how do you see Bupu making the initial greeting?
So I think she scuttles over, and nobody's noticing her as usual. And she sort of taps at him, and he looks down. Maybe.
Yeah, he looks down and says, "Oh, and are you pretty much all covered over with
sort of rags and a cloak and whatnot?" Yes.
He says, he looks a little surprised. Who are you? Where did you come from? You look like maybe some type of fortune teller.
So I'm going to do an elaborate bow.
And
I, Bupu, from Master Louis Auguste.
Oh, Louis Auguste. I know of Louis Auguste.
Yes, great man.
And
love show.
You love the show?
Louis Auguste. Love show. All show.
Well, he loves my show?
You bring show. Louis Auguste love.
I'm having a hard time understanding you. You want me? You think that Louis Auguste would like my show? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. Louis Auguste will speak glowingly of you when your spectacle appears. He will sing your praises when the acrobats swing across the stage.
Okay.
You bring show, Malvonia, over mountain.
And you think I would be interested in doing this because Louis Auguste would sing my praises?
And to all other towns. Fame for you.
Okay. All right. One thing. What is your relationship to Louis Auguste? I mean, are you just saying this because you think this would be a good idea?
Louis Auguste, Bupu Master. Send Bupu to see glory of Loquar Vivant show.
Why? Okay. Let's say that I buy that you are actually a servant of Louis Auguste. Why would he send you here? I mean, you're this, you're in rags, and you certainly are not expressing yourself in a way, Louis Auguste seems like you would send somebody who would be a little bit more good with the words.
When listening, I have the benefit. If I speak, others do.
What did you say?
When listening, I have the benefit. If I speak, others do. You benefit.
I benefit. You're a
master. Send me. You benefit.
Okay. Well, let's do this. I'm going to go on and have us do the role. This is a type of villainy ultimately, because you're trying to get a couple of these young, unknowing acrobats into the clutches of Louis Auguste. So you're going to roll fear plus self-loathing.
Okay. Where did I put that window? I just had it. 1 second. Okay. So let's see. Fear plus self-loathing. So that's 4 plus 1. So 4 d4s. Is that right?
5 d4s.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes. 4 plus 1 equals 5.
And I'll clear these out. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. I got, according to the system of an 8, I guess.
Yeah, you get 8, and then I roll reason, which is 4. And I get 9. So the result of this then is you fail, but one thing that means is you do not get the increase in self-loathing, and so your scores do not change. What Loquar says is he's not going to be okay. He's not going to be persuaded to immediately move the carnival to Malvonia. But he is intrigued enough that he will send somebody with you to talk to Louis Auguste. I mean, what he says is, okay, look, we're very, very busy, and I don't know what Louis Auguste would think he was doing, sending such a strange and mysterious emissary to see if my esteemed and fantastic carnival would come there. But I am intrigued. So I'm going to send my assistant, and we'll give the assistant, it'll be a kind of young man who is, he seems like he's just like a carnival hand. His name will be Tomas, Tomas. He talks to Tomas. Says, Tomas, come over here. Listen, we are close to Malvonia, ruled by the esteemed Count Louis Auguste. I would like you to go over there with this person. You said your name was Bupu, is that right?
Yes. Bupu.
I want you to go over with Bupu and talk to Louis Auguste to check out her story, see exactly what it is that Louis Auguste wants from us. And, Tomas says, okay, I'll do that. And there is, there is a road that will lead over the mountain for you. So Tomas is willing to kind of go with you over the mountain back to see Louis Auguste.
Are we going to just walk or ride in a cart of some sort, or?
We could maybe put you on a couple of mules.
Okay.
Get you over there. Okay. Let's go shift to Ekek. Ekek, you've had your nice little lunch. You've left the blanket behind, and so you go back over the mountain, and are you gonna go back to Louis?
Yes, I will go back to Louis as he commanded.
Okay. When you get back, Louis is still angry. He's not at the amphitheater. I mean, if you go to the amphitheater, they'll say, "Oh, Louis left and went back to his castle." So you would have to kind of go to the castle to see him. And when you get there, they would let you in. He gave that order that you come back to him, and he's in his study right now, and you can see, I mean, his face is red, and he's still clearly fuming. And you come into the study, and he says, "Ekek, what took you so long?"
Bupu is very heavy.
She's very hairy?
Heavy.
Heavy. Okay.
Don't like being your horses to take people places. I'm a man.
Yeah, Ekek, my my smelly bat boy. I've had a little change of plans. You know, I do need to get my trapeze machinery back in order, but something troubling has come to my attention. And he has a newspaper. And he plops the newspaper down on the desk in front of him and in front of you. And he says, Ekek, can you read?
I can read a little bit.
Okay, even if you can't read really well, you can certainly see pictures.
Yes.
All right.
Oh.
Look at what has been printed here. And he shows you a story. The story features a pretty elaborate drawing of the amphitheater and the trapeze machinery that was put up on the amphitheater. Okay. So it's clearly, I mean, you've been to the amphitheater, you know how it looks, you know what the kind of trapeze machinery look like. This drawing was clearly done by somebody who had a very, very good view of this. And Louis Auguste says, do you see that picture?
Yes, your contraption.
Yes, my magnificent contraption, which is supposed to be kind of a secret. This is not something that has appeared in the public view. And
it's in the newspaper.
and do you know which newspaper this is?
Ekek looks at the title on the paper.
Okay, so it's there's a kingdom called Valhellion, and it's the Valhellion newspaper. This kingdom is a fair distance away, and Louis Auguste says, okay, this is a story about this production that I am putting together, and it has extensive details about the human pendulums and the trapeze machinery that I have put together and other aspects of this production. A lot of this is information that nobody should know. And we have a fairly distant kingdom that in very quick order is getting extensive information about this and is publishing it. Ekek.
You have a spy, eh?
Well, okay. I have a spy, yes, and I need that problem taken care of. And I also am puzzling my mind as to how this information should get relayed so quickly to Valhellion? How would that happen? I mean, this machinery has not been up for very many days, and already all this information is quickly making its way across the mountains to Valhellion so that they can publish it.
Oh. Someone yelled very loudly.
I don't think you can yell loudly enough to get it to Valhellion. Ekek, put your mind to this. How would they get that information? Over the mountain.
Flying?
Ah, because you've flown over the mountains.
Yes.
But you've never flown to Valhellion.
Not in a long time.
Right.
They don't like me in Valhalla.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to help you here. So, Ekek, where would they get this information? If it was flying over the mountain, how would they accomplish that?
Pigeons! Pigeons!
Yes. Yes. We have a spy, and we have somebody who is quite possibly using pigeons to relay these messages. I need that to end. I need you to find out, if you can, who the spy is. And maybe one way to do that is to go to somebody who deals with these pigeons and put a little squeeze on them, if you know what I mean.
Pigeons? Squeeze the pigeons.
No, the pigeons can't say anything.
The
but somebody
pigeon man.
Yes.
Yes. I see. Yes. I scare the pigeon man. Yes, yes. I can do that.
Scare him and Ekek.
Yeah.
If scaring isn't enough, you might need to do more than just scare him.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay? You understand?
Yes.
And we need to know who the spy is, and we need to put an end to this problem of ours.
I will smell for the spy.
Okay, so Ekek, what do you do now?
Well, Ekek has no idea who this spy could be. So until they get some clue about that, he does know where the courier pigeon handler is. So he could fly down there and keep an eye on the courier pigeon handler, see if he's sending any messages, if he's talking to anybody, maybe sneak up to his window and peek inside to see if there's any clues that Ekek can see through the windows.
Okay.
He'll investigate.
Okay, so you're gonna be off to do a little reconnaissance investigation.
Yes.
Let's go to Hal. After meeting with Brigitte, Hal, what would you do?
So I assume I've I've covered all the different press outlets that I might need to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think after this, I mean, maybe I go to rehearse for my part of the production.
Okay, and where would that be? I mean, would this be a place back in the castle that you would go?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think what my part in this is, because I don't think that I'm one of the trapeze artists that's going to be up on the contraption.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm like the narrator. So there's the show's going on, and you have the narrator sort of telling the story and describing what's going on. And so I probably have a lot of lines to learn. So I might be in not the main auditorium, but just some other kind of room nearby, practicing my lines. So I've got, the papers that have it all written down, and I'm trying to do it without looking. And then if I stumble or hit a spot, then I look back at the papers and I've got maybe like a podium or like a music stand or something I've got it on. And, I'm trying to project my voice out to the rest of the room as I'm doing this.
Okay, so you go back there and do that, and you're there for a short period of time, and Louis Auguste walks in on you and says, "So, Hal, how did it go? Did the press seem receptive to the correct story?"
I think it went very well. Yes, I think we'll get certainly a very flattering article in the evening edition of our local paper. And I spoke to some of the out-of-town reporters and made sure that they understood how important it is to get the real facts straight from the source, rather than listening to some of the scurrilous rumors that have been going around.
And did you also talk to that meddling reporter? What is her name? Brigitte.
Yes, I definitely spoke with her.
It's like Sir Joe Berg or something like that.
Yes, yeah. I found her and explained things to her as well. Yes.
How did she respond? I mean, what is your sense of her attitude towards what I'm trying to accomplish?
It's sometimes hard to say with these foreign journalists. Mannerisms and things differ from one country to another, but I think she's receptive. I think we can make sure that she's reporting things in the way that we'd like them to be reported.
Very good. There is one other matter of publicity that I'm going to need your help with.
Oh, absolutely.
And Louis Auguste has kind of in his jacket pocket, he has kind of rolled up a copy of the Valhellian newspaper with this story that has appeared that kind of gives extensive details as to kind of various things that he's been experimenting with, kind of working out. And, now Valhellian is a little bit more distant, and it's not a newspaper that really has anybody at least thus far, who's kind of set foot into this particular area. But he details the fact that okay, here in Valhellion, it's a kind of distant community, but it's prominent, and that they've been getting information about happenings in Malvonia. And Louis Auguste says, we need to put an end to this. I have already been in touch with Ekek to find out if there's some type of spy, and I have a feeling that they're using some type of quick communication to get this information so quickly and to kind of print it out. I think we need to go to some strong arm tactics here, Hal. And I would like you to lead an embassy to Valhellion and to communicate to the newspaper there that this needs to end, and that if it doesn't end, something untoward might happen. I need you to communicate my displeasure and my anger.
Of course, Your Excellency. I will get right on that.
And I'm going to send you to lead a contingent. I have swift horses that can carry you there. And I will send the best scout with you to make sure that you make your way safely and quickly to Valhellion. I think you certainly need to have a discussion, a very forceful discussion with the newspaper there.
Yes, absolutely.
And I also want you, while you are there, to get a sense of whether or not the Count of Valhellion is behind this. Like, is this simply something that is independently being conducted on the part of the newspaper? Or I have a suspicion that the Count of Valhellion, that Hellraiser, is also quite possibly in cahoots to pass out these secrets. Can I count on you, Hal?
You can. Yes, of course, Your Excellency.
And as I say, I think some strong arm tactics may be necessary here. You need to communicate in no uncertain terms that if this does not stop, there will be no end to my anger. And there will be severe consequences.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've agreed to carry out this mission. So are you Louis Auguste says it's getting late in the day. I will give you a wonderful feast tonight in my castle. I'm too busy to kind of eat with you, but you will be well taken care of in the kitchen. And you can set out first thing tomorrow morning to Valhellion.
Of course, yes. I will get my bags packed and ready to go.
Okay.
Out of character, apologize for my cat in the background causing trouble.
So I think with